Hi, I'm Rupha Ramani, and you're listening to Just Baatein.
I'm a fool for your love.
Hey guys, welcome back to Just Baatein. My name is Aswin and it's a Sunday, which means we have a podcast, which means we have a guest on. And it's always exciting when we have a guest on. Unlike last Wednesday where we didn't have Praatibh, we do have Praatibh alongside with us. Praatibh, how are you, man? You got sick, you got vaccinated. How are you doing?
Hi Ashwin, I'm doing good, and yeah, I was sick for just one day because of the vaccine, but everything's fine now. And yeah, it's a Sunday podcast. We have a very special guest with us. Now I'll just tell you a little bit about her. So she's done 7 years in CNN, 4.5 years in Star Sports. She's a content producer for CSK for the last 3 years and currently as well. She's now a freelancer, and she's covered sports events ranging from Commonwealth Games, tennis tournaments, and a whole lot of cricket matches. I'm sure you would have seen her around. We're very pleased to have Rupha Ramani with us. And before we get into a conversation with you, I think Ashwin has something to say.
Alright, so guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can go on over the timestamp and skip ahead. Or if you're listening to this over the podcast, skip ahead. But I have a confession to make. So the day we sent the invite to her, I was scrolling through Instagram and I came across her picture, which was not actually from her account, it was from the CSK fan account. And Praatibh and I always had a conversation of sending an invite to her, but we thought it was quite impossible. But when I saw the picture, and she was also tagged on the picture, so I thought, why not? So I went over and sent an invite, and then I put the phone down. Except in that photo, there was a caption, and it got my attention, except I didn't look into it. But I wanted to know what it was about. So I went back on Instagram, scrolled again, and found that picture. And the caption said, "Happy birthday." I just realized that I sent an invite on her birthday without actually wishing her happy birthday. So then I thought, you know what, let's apologize and let's go wish her. But she so graciously replied to us and accepted the invite. So I thought, now, if I wish her now, she'd think the only reason I wished her is because she accepted it. And I went mad and I told this to Praatibh and he calmed me down. Rupa, I know it's a week too late, but I hope you had a great day. And I hope you have a fantastic year ahead.
Thank you so much, guys. No worries at all. I didn't even remember that you guys actually did that on my birthday. I swear I didn't remember. It was it wasn't a very usually, happening birthday. It's been a very slow, very quiet year. So I don't think I noticed it, but thank you so much. It's never too late, as they say. Thanks.
And now I think we'll get straight into your career and everything. Now, obviously, you're a journalist now. Before getting into journalism and broadcasting, you were also a national level tennis player. So how did you make that transition, or at what point did you feel that, okay, tennis is probably not working out here and I want to move into journalism?
If you actually kind of look at a lot of the journalists who end up sports journalists who end up being sports journalists, I think half of them would be failed sports players, sports persons. And that's what I truly believe. But I guess this whole passion for communication, for meeting people, for sports, not sports broadcast per se, but sports and writing about sports, talking about sports. I think that was always there. I don't think there was a switch in me later because tennis was not working out. So I said, okay, let me do journalism. No, I think I always wanted to get into this space. Of course, there was, the passion for the sport was there, and I did want to make it big there. But like when I was in school, when I was in college, I was the editor of the paper. I did do a lot of debates, and I was part of those teams. So I think it was like a parallel street in some ways. And when something didn't happen, I had an accident, and of course tennis wasn't possible after a certain stage. So things just fell into place. It's not like I had to think and think of a backup plan and make a move or shift. So I think things just worked hand in hand. And I must say I've been very lucky in a lot of ways, and I think a lot of I've been lucky to kind of have a sort of a career that kind of moved in a certain way that a lot of people can't say. Or I've been lucky.
Yeah, it's funny you say that a lot of sports broadcasters or sports journalists I feel sportsmen or women, because we ourselves were once ambitious cricketers and then we started this because we evidently failed at cricket. But if I'm not wrong and if I read it right, you you published your first article when you were 13. So I just want to know how you felt as a 13-year-old having an article on a newspaper, and do you remember what it was about, and yeah, around that.
I think I don't remember what it was. There were two things. So I think it was a write up about something that was happening at that point in the country. I'm not able to remember. I think the cutting is, I mean, it's there somewhere with my mom and dad, I guess. But they were saying, you love writing. Why don't you write about this? And I wrote about it. And the second was, I think, some poem that I wrote or something. I don't remember, but yeah, I was excited because I loved writing. I loved, you know, talking to people. I loved, being in the thick of it always. I think that was always, something that was something that excited me. So, yeah, that was a very exciting feat. I don't remember so much about it now, but it was quite exciting to see my name there. And I think that's a feeling that will never go away. I think even now, even though I do more television or more digital, than writing. There's very little writing that I do now. There is some, but it's very sparse. I think seeing your name somewhere written in print, I
Yeah.
think that feeling is something else, if, for me at least. And that was, I think, it started somewhere there.
But did you think you had something in you as a 13-year-old to be a writer? Because your parents for sure knew, and that's why they told you to write something. But for you as a 13-year-old, did you take it up as a school project maybe, or something that you knew that you're good at?
Yeah, I knew that language was a strength. It was something that I was definitely, that was one of my strong points. Communication, writing, talking. That was definitely my strength. And I think, if not my parents, definitely my teachers would tell me that repeatedly. Um, I was again very lucky that I had amazing teachers. There was one of my favorites. I think it was an English teacher. She always encouraged me. There was these intercollegiate, interstate writing contests that she would come and tell me to, take part in, and I did well too. And so did my parents. They also encouraged me. I used to read a lot. So all of that kind of, I think, helped me. And yes, I did believe that that was the strength that I had. And if I am realizing it to the full potential at this point, I would say no. But yes, that is something that I felt I could get better at. Yeah.
Now, you worked in CNN for 7 years and then Star Sports for 4.5 years ish. So, what was different between CNN and Star Sports, and like starting out in both? Like, what were some things that you think were different and that sort
Espe-
of caught your attention?
Especially because
I mean, it's
CNN was
worth.
almost sorry, but especially because CNN was the first job, right? And then you moved over to Star
Yeah,
Sports.
yeah.
So, what was different in the first year of CNN compared to the first years of Star Sports?
Oh, interesting question. Obviously, CNN IBN was a super experience because that year, I think, was the year when two new channels came up. Times Now came in, and so did, yeah, Times Now came in, broke away from, NDTV, and CNN IBN was a very new channel as well at that point. So, and at my college, which is Asian College of Journalism, where I did my postgraduate, usually you have a lot of people coming in because there are 150 of us every year. There are a lot of recruiters coming in and doing campus interviews. And obviously we heard that, there are going to be a lot of people coming. And that particular year, though, there was only one television channel that came to conduct interviews, which was CNN IBN. And everyone was very tense because they said they were only going to pick 10 people, 10 for CNN and 5 for CNBC. I knew CNBC was not my choice because I was not going to, business was not something that I was
Right.
really inclined towards. If I had to get in, I had to get into CNN IBN. And there was what, 40 of us. And it was difficult. I was thinking this is going to be difficult. So, and then the interview was, I even remember that, it was my first ever interview, quite intimidating. And, they knew right away that I was interested in sports. So there was a lot of questions around that, around tennis, around what I wanted to do, all of that. Didn't expect to get picked at all. And, that was the age when we grew up watching the Barkha Dutt's and getting inspired by Rajdeep Sardesai's, right? And I remember my first day, even now, when I entered the building. I told my parents, I'm going to go. I've got this job. I'm going to go to Delhi. I enter the building. Rajdeep is in the lift with me, and he's like, "Hi," and I'm like, oh, I'm speechless. And then the meeting happens, and then he comes and he's like, I just wanted to say hi to you guys and welcome. And I was told there's someone who's really, really keen to be, keen on sports. I don't know her name. And is it Rupha? So I was like, yes, that's me. Oh yeah, you're gonna be on the sports team, and that was it was a great feeling, right? At those time, that was huge for me. Contrastingly, the first, I mean, it obviously um you little more into the rigors in some sense. A lot of people know you, so by the time I had my first year at Star Sports, and a lot of people already you know the people that you're working with from before. It's the same industry, so there is a little bit of comfort. There's a little bit of calmness around that. So it was the change definitely was you're going from news to pure sports.
Right.
So there's no drama. There's in terms of um, breaking news or exclusivity or all of that. There's nothing. There's just sport, and you're talking sport all the time, and it's live telecast. It's different. It's completely different. A lot. I think I learned so much more in those 4 years, especially when it came to sports broadcast, and it was a great learning experience for me. We'll never ever exchange that for anything else. It was a great learning experience. So that ways, I think what CNN and IBM taught me in terms of being alert, in terms of being on your feet, thinking really fast, thinking really quick, and building contacts. I think that was another very important thing that I learned over there. And Rajdeep was right there, right? His cabin used to be across. He used to be invested in sports because his dad was a cricketer.
Right. Yeah.
So he's always come and he used to always talk to us. So that was always there, and he used to share so much. And you need to listen to what he's saying, no matter what he's saying about and whenever it is, because there's something good that you're going to pick up each time. Same with Star Sports. It was about the environment. You are literally meeting cricketers and commentators and everybody. If you have the privilege to be part of a tour and you're learning, and you need to earn their respect if you're a producer. Anybody and everybody can't come and do this. You need to have the passion. You need to have the knowledge. You need to want to get better, want to keep learning. So it's a great opportunity if you get it. And, if you get it, you should kind of make use of it. I think two different worlds, and it was great. I think I was there at the right moment at that time when, at the right place in that sense when it came to news, because at that time news was something else. There was so much of
Right.
sports in
Yeah.
it. People had that interest. It was a different space altogether. And I joined sports broadcasting when that was just taking off in India, and now it's something else completely,
Yeah.
right? So I think I was there at the right time at the right place when it comes to these two very different mediums.
It's funny how you talk about the attitude change that you had. So we've had an episode with Arjun Pandit and Dheeraj Juneja, and we were talking to them about how, of course, there are days when you're not really at it. You're feeling low. There are things going on at home, but in the front, when you come in front of the camera, there's a switch that goes off, and you smile. You're all energetic. And so when we asked this to them, they had contrasting methods of how they get into the zone. So what's your method of getting into the zone? How do you prepare before you get in front of a camera?
It's a good question. I think, and it's a difficult one for me because I think I'm a little different from, let's say, an Arjun. I know Arjun for a very long time. He was part of NDTV. We knew each other on the field. And then, of course, we worked together when we were in Star Sports as well with different personalities. So I know what I'd say would be different to what he would. I think I'm I'm more emotional. I'm more sensitive, especially even when it comes to observing sport or following sport or talking about it. I think my heart kind of drives me more than my head. So yes, sometimes I think it does. Putting things aside and then focusing on exactly what you have to becomes a little difficult. But I think I have grown to kind of do that because I think one thing that really drives me is adrenaline, the moment,
Right.
what I'm doing. That I've come to realize has become like a huge point of what gives me that impetus or the momentum rather than what is troubling me otherwise. So I think the joy of what's happening in front of me, I think that kind of helps me focus more than anything, even if I may be bothered by a lot of things happening around me. So I guess the sport kind of helps me ground or the work that I do, because I love my work. I love what I do, and there's nothing else that I could possibly have done. And I'm so happy I'm able to do this. I think that is somewhere there which kind of helps me to focus and forget everything else and just be there. Because, and I'm sure after all of that happens, I will go go back to whatever is bothering me. That's bound to happen. But
Yeah, yeah,
at the
of
moment,
course.
I'm able to be alive to that moment. I think that's something that I'm generally good at kind of grappling with.
Okay, so you've spoken about writing, broadcasting, and even producing shows, as we know. So, if given a choice, which one of these would you choose in terms of just having more artistic freedom to work with? So, what would you enjoy doing the most?
Oh, it's a tough one. If you're gonna ask me on based on artistic freedom, it's gonna be tough because I think I have been able to.
Right.
It's a double-edged thing. If you're part of an organization, a lot of
Mhm.
times I think it's even if you grow up the ranks, there was a stage when I was producing shows for World Cups, right? Um, but there is a particular format that you have to follow.
Right.
Even though probably you can sort of push the envelope at some
Mhm.
place,
Yeah.
and maybe you need to be clever enough to do it. Um, you need to do it at the right time as well. So all of that is becomes crucial. But I guess there's never really. I think freelancing probably in that sense has given me more artistic freedom.
Right.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'm able to do a lot of sports. I'm not tied down to just one. I can think more clearly. I can think with more freedom. Um, I think that so anything when I'm freelancing, probably it doesn't have to be just. It can be production. It can be writing. Because I think it's difficult when you're in an organization to experience a lot of freedom in many
Right.
ways. You enjoy it and it's fine, but if I have to talk about unbridled
Right.
freedom, I think it's pretty difficult. I think freelance that gives you that much more opportunities.
Cool. First question: most memorable interview you've ever had?
The Williams sisters.
We were going to bring it up because I was going through I was going through your LinkedIn, and you said you were the first TV interviewer to interview both of them together. How was that like? How was?
Surreal. Right now, if I think about it, right? I mean, and I don't have that video. It's somewhere buried in the CNN archives. I need to go back and figure out a way to get it. Because that's never going to happen, I think. But for anyone, for them to come here and sit down and have a nice conversation, I think it was surreal. That was like my first year or second year into journalism. I was
Oh.
extremely intimidated by Serena. I was totally intimidated by her. But then I think I found a way to kind of get them relaxed and laughing and talking. I think kudos, I think, for that. But Venus was sweeter. But but it's bound to happen, right? I mean, they have no business
Yeah,
being
of
nice
course.
to me.
Yeah,
They don't know me,
yeah.
so. But it was pretty special.
That's actually a great segue to our next question. Is what we were going to ask you is, what's the most intimidating show you've been a part of or an interview? So was this one the most intimidating?
Oh no. The most intimidating. Wait, let me think. I think when I interviewed Sachin, he's so
Oh
short.
wow.
I mean, I'm so much taller than him, and you think that you think it'll be fine, right? And because I feel that it's foreigners are not intimidating at all,
Right.
right? Um,
Okay.
I mean, there were a few who I thought were intimidating, but then when I met them, it was fine. But such an interview was it was something else. So I go there and I've planned my set of questions, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to ask this, and I sit, and then he
Right.
enters, and then everyone's standing up when he enters the room, and I'm
Right.
like, do I need to stand up? Is this classroom? I'm like, okay. So I just walk up to him and I say, hi, I'm going to interview you. He's like, yeah, yeah, please, yeah, I know. Let's do this. And then with
Yeah.
like 10 minutes to go for roll time, he says, I don't want to answer this question, this question. I
Oh,
don't.
okay.
I'm like, great.
Oh.
So I take the paper. That goes out of the window. I need to go half an hour with you without those questions. But it was fun. I think that was a fun exercise. I was able to get what I wanted. The channel was able to get what they wanted more than anything. So that was good. Yeah, but that I think that kind of threw me off a bit. But it was good. It was good.
Fair enough. Without making fun of anybody, with the amount of runs he has scored, with so many things that he's done. When you said Sachin, my mind said, okay, right, fair enough. Of course, it's Sachin. And then you said when he's short, that's the last thing I expected to hear. But I mean, yeah, it seems
I mean,
fair.
I'm just saying
Makes
there's so
complete
much of
sense. Yeah.
aura around him, right?
Yeah.
There's,
Yeah.
and yeah, you feel it. You feel it.
The next question is, what was that first moment you felt that you belonged in the industry? Your first article or your first interview or anything? What was that moment where you thought, right, this is where I belong?
Okay, this is just one incident that comes to mind. It was 2011. There were a lot of things that happened after that, of course, because your journey is constantly evolving, and you can't just be known in one particular manner or in one particular place, because everywhere else you go, you need to keep recreating yourself. You can't just rest on what you did 10 years ago or 5 years ago. But if you said first moment, 2011, India had won the World Cup. It was crazy scenes, and we were there at the hotel because we had to get interviews. And there was players. We got a few players. All of that was happening. There were two of us, me and my colleague, and because only one person you can't. You need to kind of have a team, and because anyone can try, and we work as a team to get interviews. Three of us actually. One was sitting in Delhi, and there were two of us who had been flown down to Bombay, and we were there at the hotel. So I got a few, my teammates got a few, but we needed to get Gary Kirsten, right?
Right.
Everyone wanted to get Gary Kirsten, and Gary Kirsten was not giving an interview, and he's not responding to anyone. I said, okay, I'm going to sit here. I don't care how long I'm going to sit here. I'm going to sit here, and I'm going to make sure. So I was again very new, just a few years into the industry, and I had not traveled enough for him to know me again. So there's no again justification for him possibly to come and say, okay, yeah, you asked me for an interview, I'll give it to you. No, that doesn't happen. So I said it's going to be difficult. He doesn't know me that well. He's probably seen me once, twice. There are a few other cricketers who knew me. I remember had few, probably a year before that, or maybe earlier that year, I'd interviewed Virat, I'd interviewed Rohit. These guys, we used to text and we used to be able to get them. All of that. I mean, it was a different time. At that time, it was a different time. You didn't have the restrictions where it all went through the board. If you knew a player and the player knew you and he said yes or she said yes, you went and you could do the interview, right? And now it's, of course, there's a different time. So Gary I had not met enough. He'd just been there for a few years. I had not traveled then. I was a new kid on the team. I said, so my boss said, it's not happening. I'm going to, let's wrap it up. I said, no, just give me one more day. Just give me one more day. I somehow got his mail ID. I kept dropping him mails and messages. I got his number as well, I think. I said, listen, I know you don't need to say yes. But I don't know what I did. I did something right, because he came down. He asked for me. He said, are you there? I said, yeah, I've been waiting here. I'm not moved from here. And he came down. He met me. He said, okay. Something. He asked me a few things like, why are we doing this? Okay, fine, cool. And he got convinced and he said, tomorrow at this time, I will be here. Set it up with everybody. I'm giving you the interview. I said, okay. So I called up my boss and I said, listen, it's happening. And I said, please don't book my ticket back. I have to do this. He said, cool, do it. So we did it. And I think I had to get my colleagues from the other networks also to come and, get the interview done or whatever. But, and ask Gary for a few others as well after that. But it was a really good interview. Rajdeep mailed me after that saying it was a fabulous interview with Gary. I just felt that, I can get things done. Felt I could get things done. The point was to be able to get things done and, stay in touch, build contacts, and make people believe that you belong here. I think that was one of the things that was, early on in my career, which made me reiterated that I was in the right track.
Listening to the tale itself makes me feel surreal. I mean, you went through it and you got the interview done. So well done on that. What a great job. Without making it personal, in the broadcasting world or even in the journalism, the industry itself, who do you go for help if you find things difficult? Is there one person you go to help for?
Ooh, interesting question. There are a few friends I have, yes. There are a few friends in the media industry. In fact, there's one whom I'm going to be working with over the next few weeks as well. We're working on a particular project here. So He's someone who's also worked with Star, and right now he's part of the IPL. Is part of one of the IPL teams. He's someone I go to for advice as well. There are a few people who, a few ex-colleagues of mine. When it comes to professional advice, is what you're saying,
Right,
right?
yeah.
Yes, there are a few people, few friends I've made who are who I rely on in terms of giving me some advice and kind of guiding me if I get stuck somewhere. Yeah, there are a few. Very grateful for having met them and continuing our friendship through sport. But yes, there are quite
Do
a few of them.
do these few who you go to help or criticize you in any way? And if they do you take it lightheartedly, or how do you take criticism in general?
Earlier, I used to not take it too well,
Oh, right.
but I think I have now. I think I've really mellowed. I don't
Mhm.
know what it is. I don't know when it happened, but I think I've really mellowed, and now I know. I mean, it's we're never good or great. It's a journey. You're gonna keep making mistakes. You're gonna keep, but don't make the same mistakes again because that's pretty silly. But yeah, I and now I'm a little more open to critiquing. The one person who I have to definitely mention is my husband. I think he's amazing.
Mhm.
He's someone whom I definitely go for advice first. Also because he's part of the media industry in some way, so
Right.
it helps. And he's amazing. I think he's inspiring in many ways. And again, one of the key people whom I tend to go to if I'm stuck with something.
That's nice. It's great to know that you do have people around you to go to. Now, if not for journalism, if not for this interview, what would you be doing on a Wednesday evening?
I'd be a chef running my own restaurant, maybe.
Oh, really? That's.
Maybe.
But I also read somewhere that you can sing. So would you have been a singer?
Yeah, if I was very serious, I think I'm more serious about cooking these days than I am about pursuing singing. But yeah,
Fair.
so yeah, the first thing that came into my mind was yeah, I'd probably have my own restaurant somewhere. Who knows?
That's nice though. You were part of co-launching Star Sports, the Tamil regional language. Was it something important for you to do, or why did you take up that initiative in the first place? Because there was no one was talking about it, at least I don't think from our front. But why was it important for you to co-launch such a channel?
No, so I think it was a definite goal for the bosses at Star. I think it was something that they were kind of veering towards a couple of years before itself. I think they English was the only language for the longest
Yeah, yeah.
time, and then Hindi happened, and no one expected Hindi to be as successful as it did. So when that was doing well, I think the immediate thought obviously went towards regional
Right.
languages, and if there was enough resources there in terms of talent, in terms of people involved who could actually contribute to it,
Mhm.
um, you know, um, logistics, all of that, then is this possible? So there were a lot of talks. Of course, they went to a lot of key languages. Tamil was one of them. Uh, the primary reason was also about there are many reasons to why something like this happens. Either you have people uh, involved in that language who inspire a country. You had something like CSK, which is a great connect for Star
Right.
Sports Tamil.
Yeah.
Bengali, of course, is a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
Someone like Ganguly. You're looking at icons, in the country who come from a certain regional, bearings. So Tamil, Bengali, Malayalam, Telugu,
Right.
Kannada as well were big in that way. And I think safe to say Tamil probably has stood the test of time. From the time I started it along with Sandeep. Sandeep is, of course, now he's moved on to bigger things. He's taking care of the whole production for Star Network.
Wow.
But Sandeep and I did the initial launch, of course, for Star Sports Tamil, and there was a small team working with us. Sriram, Sesha. I think we were like handful of us. And I have to mention Shankar as well. So all of us we had that passion, that there's so many stories to tell which you're not able to in a mainstream broadcast otherwise. And there's so much of camaraderie, there's so much of history that kind of comes through, and people are wanting that, and we knew it. So there was this time when I actually went across a lot of cities in Tamil Nadu. We had to do a bit of recce, we did a bit of survey. So I was present for all the surveys. I did a bit of So got a cumulative data from the survey, and we did all of that. We did so much research that went into, what this channel has to look like, or
Right.
who should be the faces, what should it, what should we talk about, what should drive it. And now it's moving along seamlessly
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
much effort. So I guess I think that was important, and a lot of people are just catching up to it now, from what it was, right? I think I think Star, in a lot of ways, credit to them. They have actually um, been the trendsetter in many things. Analytics was one,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, doing a lot of these things like starting up regional channels has definitely been another important aspect of broadcast.
That's true. In one of our previous episodes, we gave a lot of slack to Star Sports because of how they go about few things. But you're right in terms of how they've spread cricket in states where cricket is not actually very popular. Now you were also talking about how contacting players have become very different, and it's very evident because if you look at maybe 12, 13 years ago, there were a lot of informal interviews, whereas now there aren't as many informal interviews. So, do you think as a journalist, it becomes very difficult when the system itself becomes very difficult to contact players?
Yeah, it is difficult. And I think the gap, I know what you're getting at. I think the gap between the fourth estate and your entertainers has widened, from the earlier time. I think it all boiled down to what our practices were as
Right.
professionals. When you are in the media industry, your job was to um, start somewhere, start low, start with
Mm-hmm.
being there on the field, going and reporting, meeting these guys when they're playing Ranji tournaments, when they're playing domestic
Right. Yeah.
tournaments, get your contacts going, make
Mm-hmm.
stories, write about people, write about interesting things that's happening, keep going there, and don't just go there when you have to file a story. Go there
Right.
when you don't need to file a story,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. I think that whole practice was like one of those very symbolic process that was important, and even cricketers recognized such people. They knew, oh, they would see this person there
Yeah.
every time, they would go and talk to them, and they spoke their hearts out when they were at those moments. They were honest, they were bare, you knew them for who they really were. But at some stage, I think with the change in media industry as well, with the change of what news television went on to become, I think there was there's become a lot of guardedness in terms of relationships that people
Right.
um, wanted to build later on.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that has really resulted in a lot of um, a bit of a regimen in place, a bit of a strict system in place, and yes, that does defeat um, the purpose of certain frank
Yeah.
conversations or certain people and certain bonds forming. I think it's probably more so in India. I don't see that
Mm-hmm.
abroad. I
That's true.
think
Yeah.
I think because I think we Indians generally don't take criticism very well. We Indians
Right.
generally are very guarded. I think that comes from there. That comes from there somewhere. So, but I don't see that maybe with England cricketers or
Mm-hmm.
New Zealand, Australia. There, the media and the sporting fraternity are very close.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There is that closeness. There is that warmth. Not so much now with Indian cricket, though. I think that generation is kind of just the last generation where, okay, some of us who've been there for a long time, so the cricketers know us, and
Right.
then the ones after us, we don't know. We don't know who they are. We don't know who the reporters are. We don't know who does these stories. That's a bit of a gap there. I think ours is probably the last generation which did develop contacts and had that kind of a relationship.
As a spectator, I think that's a tough one to hear. But to finish, I mean, you've been so kind to give us so much of your time. And to finish this interview, you're a freelancer now, also working with Chennai Super Kings for the past 3 years. But are you someone who sets future goals? Because my question, even though it's ambiguous, I was going to ask you, what are your future plans? But how do you go about things? Do you set future goals, or do you just take it one day at a time?
Good question. So CSK is a freelance contract. It's not something that I'm permanently
Right.
working with them. It's a freelance contract. I'm constantly evaluating my projects every year.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have started doing what you just asking me. Do I look at what's next, or do I plan what's I have started doing that. I wasn't before. Before, it would be
Mm-hmm.
whatever came to me, and
Right.
I would flow with that. But now it's more like I go to things as well because there are so many things happening around, and I think I've managed to kind of branch out to a lot of different areas and not just restrict to one because I know it and because I'm loyal or because it's just
Right.
natural. I've started doing a lot more other stuff as well because it's just come through some other connections as well. So I think, yeah, it's also about planning, knowing exactly what your strengths are, planning a bit ahead, and that ways you know exactly. But goal setting, I think it's important. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's really important for a lot of us to do that, no matter how old you are in the industry. I think that becomes very important. I think that's what kind of inspires you and motivates you also after a certain stage.
What do you have to say to those who are not inspiring, or aspiring to not only be journalists, but get into a field that's not usually talked about? Because even now, I mean, it's changing, but even now, our parents talk about engineers or doctors or lawyers, and that's the third option all the time. But yeah, what do you want to tell those kids out there who are aspiring to get into the fields that aren't usually talked about?
Well, great then. I mean, always do things that are not expected. Always do things that you like and not necessarily is followed by the whole country or a lot of people.
Right.
I think that's the first step in acknowledging that this is something that you really want to do, and for the right reasons. I
Mm-hmm.
think the doing anything for the right reasons will get you somewhere already into a great footing. And then when you have the passion for it, and then when you keep learning as you go as well, and you are diligent in doing the whole process, not just trying to find shortcuts in getting where you have to, I think you're sorted. You don't need anything else. I truly believe, even now, when people say that, oh, the pandemic, and it's so difficult, and
Mm-hmm.
there's so many things that have not happened, and everything has come to a bit of a standstill everywhere. Yes, it has, but that means everyone is on the same level as you are.
Yeah.
Everyone
Sure.
is, it's back to square one for everybody then, and isn't that great? It's level footing,
Yeah,
and then you know
that's true.
exactly how you can kind of charter whatever you want to do something new, do
Mm-hmm.
something. the only the only way you will succeed is if you're creative and if you're an original. If you keep doing what everyone else has done before you, you're going to get exactly as far as they have
Right.
or hope to get. So always think out of the box and you're good to go.
What a great way to end this episode. I mean, I completely agree with you. And wow, that I really felt that. What a great way to end this episode. Before this is a very weird question to end this episode, but are you a coffee or a tea person?
Ooh, okay. I'm not a tea person. I'm not a tea person.
Right.
I'd prefer to drink neither, but if I had to choose,
Oh,
I'd definitely go with coffee, but nothing hot. Like I like a cold coffee for sure. No hot beverage. Not a hot
oh.
beverage person. I like cold beverages. So yes, coffee then, not iced tea
From
for sure.
from a message that felt my heart to an answer that broke my heart. But I mean, what a great way to end this episode. Rupa, thank you so much for giving us so much of your time. And I could listen to you all day if it weren't for the time constraint or the episode, but thank you so much. Guys,
Very kind. Thanks a lot.
guys, like, share, and subscribe, all that good stuff. I will put her Instagram on her description below, so go check that out if you want to. You know what we do. Wednesday's a cricket episode, Sunday's a podcast from guests from all around the world and all walks of life. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.
Yo, thanks for tuning into the latest episode of Just Baatein. We hope you enjoyed it and that it left you inspired. Thanks for all your support, and maybe you could support us just a little more by maybe going to our Instagram and Twitter and giving us a follow there. And also, you can listen to us on all podcasting platforms, right from Spotify to Apple Podcasts to Google Podcasts. Cheers.